Okay, let's now help the potential home buyer. You have gotten an awful lot of information, and all of that is going to be usable for what you're trying to do for this type of a client. But you're going to be able to really do something for a buyer more than any other real estate agent in town also. So let's get started here and remember that Feng Shui is living in harmony with the natural world. So even when you walk into a house, you're wanting to make sure that it harmonizes with the outside. If the inside is closed up and very sterile, you're going to have difficulty with any home buyer to get really interested in a home. So we want to make sure that there's a lot of potential inside and outside for this harmony. I've mentioned these two things before to you several times in the other videos. The idea of security and comfort. So you're going to be looking at a home with this idea in mind right away. You want to make sure that your client, your potential home buyer, is going to feel very safe there. And you remember that feeling safe Feng Shui-wise is a lot more than trying to worry about whether or not somebody is going to come onto the property or those kind of things. We're worried about things like poison arrows, corners that give a feeling of insecurity. We want to make sure that a person is going to feel comfortable all the time in this home. And some homes have it, some don't. And it's to your benefit to be able to cross the ones off very quickly by taking a look at the way it is put together and the way it is situated. So again, poison arrows are a very important thing for you to consider. Even the cures for poison arrows are not always going to handle the feeling deep down subconsciously for a person. So when you find a house like the one on the top right that has a utility box, certainly a hedge like this actually buffers it and takes away a lot of the severity of it. But it's to your benefit sometimes and their benefit to try to find a house that does not have this on the lot. Now, if your person is really into Feng Shui, they're going to be looking at roof lines like you see on the left-hand side. And, often most homes don't have any kind of difficulty in this situation, but you do need to look around the other homes close by and make sure that their roof lines are not pointing at the house that you're considering showing, and especially at the bedroom, the master bedroom. The picture on the bottom right, that can certainly be cured very easily by taking away those sharp corners. But again, the entrance can have sharp corners in so many ways, including the columns and the edges of the exterior. So take a good look at that and make sure that it does work well. Boy, is location important in Feng Shui. And all three of these are just some of the examples that you want to steer away from for your client. You certainly, and they certainly, do not want to be looking at something like a cemetery. But actually, you really don't even want to be close to things like funeral homes or even churches. Right on top of a church is not the best thing to do. You certainly don't want to be close to transformers or utility lines. You don't want them going over top of a house. You don't want to be close to a fire hall. You really don't even want to be close to a school because there's just too much yang activity. And it's therefore going to allow the comfort level to suffer a great deal. So you want to look at the macro environment. And I know you know how important that is, that they can get to a drugstore, how easy it is for them to get to a supermarket. All those things are important. But you want to make sure that you're not on top of these things either. So if you look at the bottom left-hand picture, There is no way that most people want to be right on top or real close to a street like this, where these fast food restaurants are and all this advertising. The top two pictures, you want to stay away from very heavily trafficked roads and streets. You don't want to be close to that for a lot of reasons. And one of them is the sound, but it's very, very powerful yang energy. And then the bottom right-hand picture is a school letting out. Okay, again, it's definitely not for everybody. And in most cases, I would really not want to have a house really close to a school. So you've got to know the area well. You've got to take the time to really know your area very, very well. And I'm sure most of you have. But you might not know all subdivisions or streets as well as you need to when you're showing homes to this particular client. So you might have to take a trip the day before to actually scope things out and to make sure that the homes that you're about to show them the next day do not have a great deal of traffic, do not have a great deal of noise, and other types of yang activity. Again, you want to have them close to amenities, but not on top of them. And again, I'll mention it one more time. Schools, churches, access to highways, they're all great, but it's better if you're several blocks away than only a couple of doors away. In Feng Shui, you do not want to have a house on a dead end. The energy sort of accumulates and has no idea where to go. It gets very frustrated. You also want to worry about things like cul-de-sacs, especially the house at the direct end of a cul-de-sac, because it gets an awful lot of energy, very, very forceful. And if you remember, there are two bad types of energy. One is stagnant, which you're definitely not going to get in a cul-de-sac because it's going to move around and spin around quite a bit. But you also don't want forceful. You want it to come into your environment in a very meandering, controlled way. Now, the picture on the right-hand side, certainly you've probably been involved with houses that slope down from the back. This is something to stay away from totally. Even trying to cure this situation is somewhat at times hopeless. The idea is the energy will not accumulate in the back. It won't stay. It'll drop right off, and therefore it's going to affect some of the success of the people living there. Trees and landscaping are very, very important. Of course, they're important inside, but boy, are they important outside too. You want to have a lot of trees if possible. You want to have a nice landscaped situation, or at least the potential for this to happen. So you want to take a good look at the outside on all sides, certainly in the back and the front. You've seen this before, but it's a very important thing for me to drum into you one more time, that people have been proven to be less depressed, less stressed, and less anxious if there is a fairly good sized tree canopy in the area close to the house. So you want to make sure that you're not starting off with a situation that is going to be harmful. The shape of the lot in Feng Shui is also very pivotal for holding energy and maintaining it for as long as necessary. So when you get to a cul-de-sac like you see here, you see that the shape of the lots is very odd shaped, very sort of pie-shaped in some cases. And that is not the best type of lot to choose for your client, if at all possible. Now, if they ask for a cul-de-sac, that's one thing, but try not to get the house at the end of the cul-de-sac. In the picture on the left, there's actually two houses that are really getting a direct flow down at the bottom. I've got an arrow at one of them, but the one to its right is also getting bombarded pretty much too. Just think of it this way. If somebody is driving in here later at night and they have their headlights on, where those headlights actually focus on is where a lot of the energy is actually going and being very forceful. So you try to stay away from pie-shaped lots if you can, as much as possible. Again, the buyer is going to make the call in a lot of cases, and in some cases there are still buyers that are looking for cul-de-sacs because they think it might be a better situation, especially for younger children, for playing out in the street. But if possible, you would prefer to get a lot that is more rectangular or square. The perfect building site. Again, a very important slide that you've seen earlier. And you're always looking for the classic armchair setup when you try to find a home for somebody. It gives them a great deal of security, and therefore it creates more comfort. It creates that buffer behind them, which gives them more privacy. So always remember the classic armchair when you're trying to find a home for your potential home buyer. Now the lot on the left actually has a pretty good start. It has a mountain with all those trees in the back. So the lot on the left would start off in a good situation. It would work pretty well right away. You've got a nice buffer back there. It creates privacy, but it also gives that mountain that we're looking for. Whereas the one on the right, sadly, is very common in a lot of subdivisions nowadays, where a builder goes right in to a new area and quite often knocks down all of the trees and bushes that happen to be on the lots. So you start off this way. So yes, you're going to run into that, and yes, you're probably going to be selling lots like that or houses that are on lots like that. But you have to understand that it needs to show the potential for creating the mountain and the buffer. Okay, so some subdivisions and some types of complexes don't really want you to do an awful lot of your own planting. So be careful of that, because anybody that you're working for really needs this. They'll feel a lot more comfortable and secure in that situation. You need to seriously consider purchasing a good compass. Anybody involved with Feng Shui is definitely going to be of interest in where the house is pointing or where their bedroom might be located. So just for that reason, it's to your benefit to have a good compass in your car. But another reason is you can really find a home that actually the sun doesn't come right up and right away affect negatively the house with respect to too much sun, too much heat in the morning, okay, or in the evening. So sometimes people really take into account exactly which direction the house actually faces. And it can be very helpful to create 24-hour comfort. So please consider getting yourself a good compass for a lot of reasons. Now, if they're Feng Shui oriented, they conceivably have 4 auspicious directions that'll work. A lot of people out there are looking for more of a southern exposure, and in some cases an eastern exposure. I usually try to talk them out of an eastern exposure because of the great deal of sun and heat, especially in the summer. You've seen the 8 tests, and every one of these is something that you might want to check off when you're looking at a home, whether or not it's going to be on the list for the next day to show. So is the curb appeal okay? Or can it be worked with? Is it the walk from the car to the front door? Is it sort of blah? Is there no contrast? This might turn them off, but it's probably something that you can cure. Now, the entrance can be really very hurtful if that front door color, for example, is blending in with the exterior. Okay, it can be changed. But again, if it's pointing to the east, it's probably fading all the time. So consider the entrance, maybe again, bring out that compass. The foyer area can be very, very important too. So when you're taking a quick look, see if this is a home that they might enjoy. What's the first thing that you see when you come in the door? Is that going to have to be cured? And if you know that, you can help them right away if you decide to show them this home the next day, even though there might be a slight problem. The room of first impression can be to the back, and that is a poor problem. And we want to make sure that we can handle that also. The maintenance of the house, very important. And is it easy for you to walk through the house? Is the flow good? And then, of course, these are the two most important rooms at the end, the kitchen and the master bedroom. Are they going to work for this couple or for this buyer? Check out the curb appeal. Is it going to pass the test right away, or do you have, for yourself, do you have some cures that you can offer them? Try doing this, try doing that, and now it will look really good. So it's possible you're going to run into a house the curb appeal is only okay. But if you have in your toolbox some very good ideas that you can share with them, right away, you're going to look a lot better to them. Again, the main entrance can be a real positive thing or actually a very negative thing. The picture on the top left has a front door off to the left-hand side of the house. Not everybody wants to come in on the left or the right side. They would prefer to come in the center. It's actually easier to use the bagua in that case too, but consider what you've got in that case. It might not work. Another thing in that picture, before we leave it on the left-hand side, it has a column with some sharp corners coming off of it. It has a sharp corner where the mailbox is. Neither one of those things are positive. They're going to be very hard to cure and soften, and it might be a real problem for them to feel comfortable ongoing. The picture at the top right has a front door or entrance inset somewhat into the building. That is not always a positive situation either. It has some very sharp corners once again. And then on the bottom right, you have some of that happening again. So consider where the front door is. Consider if it's in the center front of the house, which is often the most advantageous and is actually the most popular when you're reselling. And also look out for sharp edges or poison arrows that are going to be very difficult to actually change. Now that first room when you enter, you have a lot of possibilities that you have to look at. If it's a two-story home and you look down at the bottom picture, is the stairwell right there behind the door? That's a no-no in Feng Shui, as you already know. The top picture to the left, when you walk in, do you have a wall immediately? Okay. Is it going to be easy for a person to walk in and feel comfortable right away? Or are they going to be sort of cramped immediately inside the foyer? Or the picture on the right-hand side shows coming in the front door and you can see the bank windows in the back, which again is a problem because the chi, the energy, moves quickly and swiftly to those windows in the back, therefore not making the house as comfortable and as nourished as possible. So it's to your benefit to walk in and check out that foyer and the first room of impression right away. The kitchen is, again, one of the two most important rooms. And most kitchens have all of the elements to some degree, but these kitchens are sort of out of balance. The one on the top left has too much metal. Now, it probably can be cured to some degree, but this one's going to be a hard one to cure because of the countertops, the appliances, the color of the cabinets certainly can be changed, but it's going to be difficult and therefore creating a situation that might not work. The one at the top right is not too bad, and it has a lot of good things going for it. I really like the way the sink and the stove are situated. But the one on the bottom right is all wood. Look at this wood floors. Look at the wood cabinets. Okay, so it really might be out of balance, and it might be a very costly thing for your clients to change. The master bedroom, you want to make sure that there's going to be a solid wall that they can put their bed up against the headboard, and they're going to be able to see the door leading in. That is the most pivotal thing. You certainly do not want to put the headboard of the bed where you see in the top left-hand picture. It's not going to work well at all. The other ones have a solid wall behind them, but the one on the top right, you must stay away from that situation. There are certain older homes that this is the best that you can do. And if that's the best you can do, it's to your benefit to pass on that one. Having the ceiling coming down like that towards the person's head is a definite negative feature. Bathrooms, plumbing, and sometimes missing quadrants can be really harmful. If you notice the picture we have on the left, it has no privacy from the master bedroom into the bathroom. It's preferable to be able to shut one off from the other. Not only give privacy, but also to create more comfort for everybody that actually is going to sleep there. So it's to your benefit to have a way of actually shutting them off from each other. We went over the idea of having plumbing in the wall. Probably where that bed is situated that you're looking at in that picture, probably there's no plumbing in that wall. But it does happen in some cases, so you try to stay away from any plumbing in the wall that you're going to put your bed up against. We've mentioned that bathrooms can be a slight problem. If you can, try to stay away from a bathroom in the center of the house, which is in the health area of a house when you lay the bogwa over it. And then the last thing I want to mention here, and you're going to be able to tell this when you walk in and look at a floor plan, is there a missing quadrant? In this floor plan that you see on the right-hand side, do you see that the wealth area is actually missing? So it's to your benefit and to their benefit to be able to get a better situation than this one. We mentioned this study about sunlight. You want to find a house that gives the inhabitants a lot of natural sunlight. Okay, and it's so important that they will feel healthier and more comfortable living there. So let's do a quick summary. Location Feng Shui is a term that I've heard from a lot of folks that are involved with Feng Shui. It's the best way to really look at finding a home that is going to fit perfectly for them. And don't forget, before I go through the summary, these people, if you keep up with them, are eventually going to sell that home. And if you're still in real estate, you're going to have a home that's going to be easier to sell if you take into account the Feng Shui advantages that it might have. So take time to filter which homes you're going to show. You can save yourself some time the next day if you do a quick run by. You actually find out where the homes are located. You have less confusion about finding the homes when you're driving with them in your car. So you've already done the run by. So try to filter out some of the homes that are certainly got some major problems and they're going to be very difficult to cure. And some of them are so difficult, you can't really solve them. So just pass on by those particular houses. Make sure your client knows how thorough you have been in choosing the best properties for them, that you're taking into account what really is going to be the best for them.